Welcome to My Forever Home, the podcast. I'm Frances Cosway and I've helped hundreds of people create forever homes. I can't wait to share the journey with you. So let's start. Hi everyone and welcome to Friday, your Forever Home Live. I thought I should start calling this something because I'm turning up every Friday. Again, I've got Instagram followers there and I've got my Facebook here. So I'm trying to just make sure that I can give eye contact to everyone. So excuse me while I look across all the time. I've decided that because I'm doing this now every Friday. We're doing this as a regular thing to answer your questions, share some knowledge, and keep us all, I suppose, entertained to an extent while we're going through these at-home shenanigans, I suppose, at the moment. So today I'm going to talk to you about decorating while at home. I've been talking to lots of clients, and hi, Jackson, and really, and I think I may have touched on this last week around people getting quite frustrated with the fact that they are now at home and they are now constantly surrounded by the things that were driving them crazy. I call them bugbears. It's one of the first things I ask clients, what are your biggest bugbears? What are the things that are really getting you down, driving you nuts? And I suppose now more than ever, because we're not leaving the house, we are surrounded by these niggly things even, that were, annoying us anyway, but now they are really getting on our nerves. Now, before I get into that, it's sort of an interesting time for just about all of us. I know Tasmania is on holidays, school holidays, but a lot of us went back to school this week. And the homeschooling is definitely interesting. It's certainly building a lot of resilience for our kids. We tried incredibly hard. My children are 9 and 10 and they have effectively had no screens, as in any iPads. We don't have an iPad. They had no computer access, no phone access. And so we have been very diligent in not having our kids on screens. And now all of a sudden they need to do all their schooling on a screen. And so we're having to teach them how to open emails, how to use a mouse. And it was just, I suppose it's very premature in terms of us wanting them to get onto all of that technology. But now we haven't had a choice. And now they are picking it up very quickly, but we've had our teething issues. They started on Wednesday, so today's day 3. And also just where are we setting them up? So initially we were setting them up in their separate little spots on the dining table. We thought that would be great. We had another day of setting them up. So the issue with that was they got at each other, I suppose, a little bit, but no one was really seeing what was on their screen. So they went on to paint. They went and did all these different things. So I've had to introduce really strict rules around when they're allowed to be on their screens. And then we had another day of one was sharing the office with me. That meant my husband was kicked out of the office and he was working upstairs, and the other one was at the table, so that didn't work. So now we've got out one of our camping tables and we've set them up in our second living room. They've got awesome natural light, which is really important. They've got their own station, so we're going to see how that goes. And if that doesn't work, then we're going to set them up on 2 separate other camping tables, again in the spare room, in the second living. Who cares? No one's going to come here. We just have to get this to work. So I'm sure that you're all, the parents of you that are listening, are going through all of those ways of what's going to be the best way to get them to be productive, less distractions, and they're not fighting the niggling. Don't look at my screen. Don't do this. Don't do that. Oh, you know what it's like. But I have to say the school has been absolutely phenomenal. We changed schools the last week of term 1, or 2 weeks before term 1 ended. And they've been absolutely phenomenal in terms of the structure, in terms of how easy it is for them to check in, work out what they've got to do. They're with the teacher first thing. They're with the teacher at the start of every hour to go through what their learning is for that hour. So really good breaks. And then at 3 o'clock, they can basically do paint. They can do a colouring in, they can watch Aladdin, So it's a really good end of the day. And then at 3:30 when they finish, I go out and do a bike ride with them, get them out. They're still doing all their specialist classes. So it's great. But I'm sure that you're all going through your own teething problems in this homeschooling. The knock-on effect for me is that I'm now working about 3 hours less a day. I am making their lunchbox each morning so I don't get interrupted. I'm hungry. I need a drink. I need this. So they've still got their lunchbox every day, just like normal. Today's lunch order day, apparently, so they can have something rubbish from the canteen that they would have once a month on a Friday. So we're all finding our way, and I know that it's incredibly challenging, and each school has got their own different way of working. So that was that. And of course, Easter was everyone was at home. So it was quite different. I mean, I really enjoyed being at home for 4 days and not having to work. So I quite embraced it. But not everyone in our household was happy with that. The kids wanted to be at the farm. All right, so decorating while at home. What are, some of the things that we can do? What are some of the things that are really driving you crazy? So I suppose the first thing is identifying what are the little niggly things that your bugbears, so they're for me a bit bigger than the niggly things, but what are some of the things that have been annoying you that you're looking at each day going, oh my goodness me, what are some of the key things that you might be able to change? So can you move things around? Can you move your artwork around? Can you move some of your decorating items around? Can you change them up? Can you change your scatter cushion? So what are some of the things that you can actually move around? Is there something missing? Have you got a blank wall that you think, oh, I've been looking at that blank wall for all this time. Do you need to move artwork from another space there? Do you want to put up your kids' drawings? Do you want to get them to create something for that wall? Do you want to create something for that wall? Do you want to now start doing some artwork or embracing a new activity that then you can, incorporate into your home? So what's missing? What are some of the things that you can change? How can you use colour? So think about the things that make you happy. Is it a colour? Is it being surrounded by art? Is it being surrounded by things that kids have made you? Is it being surrounded by plants? But what are the things that make you really happy? And I think that can then help pinpoint if the things are making you happy and you've got stuff around you that's the polar opposite of that, then maybe you need to take that out of the space. And maybe you then need to inject things that are making you happy. So it could be a colour. Do you need to paint a wall? Do you need to wallpaper a wall? Do you need to cover the wall with art? Do you want to create something for the wall? So think about, what are the things that you love having around you that make me happy? What about photos? Now's a great opportunity to, maybe go through all your online photos and see which ones, I've been, meaning to get those up on the wall and haven't got around to it. So are they the things that could be something that you can do now? Because you can order that all online. You can order the frames online, and then you can create the family wall. I know a lot of clients love having. And it looks fantastic that you've got this whole wall that's just of family photos, or it might be a travel wall, or you might have a combination of both. So if there's sort of things that make you happy and also remind you of, times when you were about where you could hug your friends and all that sort of stuff. So it might be photos, art, bringing the outdoors in. It might be that you want to tidy. And I know we've used this as an opportunity to really go through a lot of rooms and say, okay, we've really got to sort these out. And so we're getting into spaces that we haven't actually got into since we moved in nearly 6 years ago, and really getting those spaces sorted. So the kids' rooms were certainly one of them. We did those quite a while ago, about a month ago. Now we're getting into the cellar, we're getting into the laundry, we're getting into the kids' craft cupboard. So, getting into all these spaces. And maybe it just means that you need to do a big tidy, you need to do a big purge, and really just on an interior designer webinar last week with a whole lot of interior designers worldwide. And one of the things that one of them raised, which I thought was really interesting, is they said we've surrounded ourselves, and I mean, they've got a magnificent house, but they surrounded themselves with stuff. And they're actually looking at their spaces now in this time and saying, do I need all this stuff? Does this stuff have a purpose? And look, this whole minimalism mindset is becoming quite, it's quite a big thing at the moment. But they, as interior designers, were looking around their space and saying, do we need all this? There's a lot of stuff around us. And they're actually using this as an opportunity to look at everything around them. And yeah, they might be nice things, but do they actually form a function? And because we're in our homes more than we ever have been before, it might feel a little cluttered because you are constantly in that space. And so is this an opportunity to actually start to purge and look at things being functional as well as being beautiful and saying, I can get rid of some of these other things. I don't need to have all this stuff around me. And look, there is a decorating style that is, quite abundant, that there are a lot of things around you. But when you're now in that space all the time, maybe that space could be used for something else. Maybe you just feel like you are, living in a little bit of excess when we're sort of living in times that are not about excess. It is about having things around us that we really need. And maybe this is an opportunity for you to say, well, look, I am going to get rid of things that are not as functional as they could be, or I am going to just create, this as an opportunity to get rid of excess things or change it up. So I found that was a really interesting seminar. A lot of the people that were on it were from Hong Kong. So designers where space is, an absolute premium. And so spaces need to work a lot harder for us now than they ever have before, which leads me to my second point. And that is there a room or a space in your home that isn't quite finished or could be used for something else? So you may have a space, like I was using as an example in our own home. We've got our second living, and it's not as though we don't use that space, because we do. The kids muck around in there, we do board games in there, and it is actually what we call our winter room, because we converge in there in winter because it's a lot more cozy. It's carpeted, heavy drapes. We feel more cozy in that space. But we are in autumn. We haven't quite got into winter yet. So we have set up that space for the kids to be able to do their homeschooling. And I felt very lucky that we had a whole room that we could dedicate for them. Yeah, the piano's in there and it's the music room as well. It's a room for everything really, but we still were able to set up the kids in that space. So, okay, in my ideal world and kids are coming over, people are coming over, you think, oh, I don't want my second living looking like an office. But hey, we are in unprecedented times and you need to use the space in your home to be as functional as it possibly can be. Now more than ever, things need to work. Spaces need to be functional. You need to be able to make sure that you are maximizing every space in your home to be as functional as possible. So I want you to think about spaces and rooms that may be underutilized. Have you got really big master bedroom that can then also be something else in one of the corners? So, for example, there might be a space that you can set up for the kids like we have as their homeschooling environment. Could it be another workspace? Could it be, both partners are now generally working from home, if both partners are working, but even if one's not, they generally need an area that they can sort of do their bills and do whatever it is. And have you got the best space set up for that? What about a quiet space? Is an area that, whoever it is in the house needs to just have a space that they can go to. And maybe there is a designated quiet space within the home that you can utilize for just people to go and read or just, catch their breath. Of course you can go outside and have a walk, and that's really, really important at the moment, but you need to be able to have a space as well that you can retreat to. And if kids are sharing a bedroom, that might not be ideal. Maybe there's another area that they can go to where they can just have their me time, their downtime on their own. It's really important now for your own mental health to feel that you can get away, and just have some, quiet time. Is there a play space that you need to have dedicated? And look, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be an area that people, or a designated area that kids feel like they can play or they feel like they can do a craft. We've actually set up, a puzzle, and that's where the kids go to for their mindful activity, or when they're having their break in homeschooling. You need to be off your screen. You need to go and do something else. So it's outside is the number one thing I encourage. If not, okay, you can go and listen to a story, which is big in our house, or you can go and do the puzzle. And I've set that up on a big piece of timber so we can move it around. So that's set up on the dining table. Sometimes it goes to the bench. Sometimes it goes to the living room floor. But at least we can move it around and there's a spot for them to do their puzzle. Maybe you need a space where you have got a second TV, where if someone wants to watch one thing, one program, there is a spot where someone can watch something else. So we need to be able to have these areas. So I want you to think about It may not be ideal and it may not be forever, but for now, in the times that we are in, is there a space in your home that is not being fully utilised? And look, I have been in many clients' homes where they've got rooms that are, I suppose, are junk rooms. Because they haven't got around to it, and that room could be really utilised for something else. And maybe this is the time to sort out the junk room or the ironing room, or, you've got this space that can actually be really well utilised. Gee, the sun's really coming down on me now. That you can maximise the use. And it doesn't matter if the room has been designated originally for X and X. Be flexible. Our second living is now, hi Anne, all the way from the UK. How lovely. Our second living has been set up as a homeschooling. Who cares? Just make sure that you've got areas that are going to be used as best as they possibly can. Surround yourself with stuff that makes you happy. Colours, go and get some paint. Again, you can order it online or pop down to the hardware store. You can still do these things and practice social distancing. Experiment. Now more than ever, no one's going to come in and see the paint colour that you put on your wall that you're like, not quite right. Use swatches. I always say that, get a sample pot. But just think about the things that make you happy. And I know for me, it's plants. It's having art around me that I love. It's being able to move things around, and books. So, think about the things that make you happy. It might, and a whole lot of photos, and then start moving things around or start thinking about how you can inject that without necessarily having to spend a whole lot of money. So they're my tips for decorating while at home. Now, next week, the podcast is going to launch. So Your Forever Home podcast will launch, and there's going to be a whole heap of information in there around creating your forever home. And that touches on so many different things. So watch this space. I need to load it first, and then it will actually release. And so that timing is not exact. And so once I know it's live, I'll let you know. And the other thing I'm going to be doing is a webinar on the 28th of April, which is a Tuesday at 7:30, around decorating while at home. So I'm going to give you a lot more tips and how-tos on what you can actually do around your house, give you some ideas and inject some thought about what you can actually do in your home through this time without necessarily having to go to the shops. That's what we're trying to avoid at the moment. So join me at 7:30. You can get the link to join on the website. I'll also put it into the comments here, and I hope to see you on that webinar, 7:30, the 28th of April, Australian Eastern Standard Time. And of course, I'll be back here, Your Forever Home Live. I'll be back here next Friday at 10 o'clock, imparting more knowledge around what you can do while you're at home at the moment. And hopefully by next week, homeschooling will have settled in. The kids will be more into a routine, and I can claw back the 3 hours that I'm losing each day by being the facilitator of school learning, or at home school learning. So have a great weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy, self-distance, and I'll see you next week. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of My Forever Home. If you're ready to renovate or build a new home and you need help to create a beautiful and functional forever home, you can book a chat with me directly at whitepebbleinteriors.com.au/chat. Have a great day.